So when I incarnated into the womb, I remember being in my mother's womb and I was scared to be born. I was scared to exit the womb, the experiences that I had while I was in the womb. So I left home with panic, and has been a steady baseline through my entire life, has been a baseline of anxiety and panic. Have you seen the movie What Dreams May Come?
Yeah, seen it a long
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Do you remember the scene where Robin Williams is in heaven and Cuba Gooding Jr. is with him in the house that was still in painting before he converted it to an actual structure? And do you remember where Cuba Gooding Jr. took his finger through the wall and then pushed the wall out, and it was paint at that point, but then as soon as he pushed it through, it became the real structure and not paint? Well, that very much was a great representation of what the structures were like in the home that I came from. Not the paint part of it, but so the open walls, the water running through, perfect temperatures, where it's, sunny and all the time. It's just light. It's not even sun. It's just light everywhere in everything, and warm and comfortable. When I saw that movie, it was a great.
Yeah, it resonated with you. So you remember all that before you came on Earth, before you incarnated.
Yes.
You remember that scenes. Can you describe for my viewers? And I'm curious to.
My memories are only for about the last few moments that I was home and I was in one of those structures. It was I don't have a name for it. It wasn't my home. It was just, I was in the structure and I was working on a hologram with my hands, but my hands were controlling the image that was coming up through. It was like a table, and I was trying to build or construct something. I don't remember the exact details of what it was, and it wasn't coming together. And I got frustrated, and, home, for where I'm from, which I don't have a name for, you don't get frustrated. Frustration is just not something that really exists there. And so if you get frustrated, then you get the call. And as soon as it happened in my head, I heard this very loud telepathic call, like on a loudspeaker, calling volunteers to go down to Earth. And so there were others in my room that I was working, my building, my structure that I was in, that were around me, and they started following me as I walked out the door to go to the meeting place for where we go in to incarnate. And I had a friend that ran up to me. Did you hear the call? He was super eager and excited. And I was like, yes. I was still frustrated. I heard it. I'm obviously walking that way. So I can very much say that part of that personality of me did come into this life, because I have that side to me here too. So I ended up walking into the Akashic Hall of Records, and you meet with a team. You have a team there that helps you pick out from categories what you're going to experience in this lifetime. So when you enter into this big, huge room, and I should say that home is similar to here, whereas we have structures, we have a body, but it's different. There's a more spaciousness to it. It's not as dense. It's not as confined. So obviously, because we're not in the 3D. So the team of people that were there with me, we had this table. It had categories laid out. And a lot of these things that you're presented with that you can choose for your human experience, you don't know what they are, because it's not a higher intelligence knowing. So the things that you don't know, for example, you can choose your parents, you can choose your hair color, all those things. You can choose the kind of work you want to do. You can choose the kind of drugs that you're going to try. And so that's a good example. Like, we don't know what drugs are. So if that's on the table, they'll explain to you each thing. And then if you choose a big lesson, such as I chose multiple car accidents in this lifetime. And then the third one that I chose, I remember very distinctly, they asked me, why would I choose that? Because while I'm there and it all seems like easy lessons, because I'm such an advanced soul that I would get through it fine, being here in the 3D in a human body, it's going to have a very different effect because of the physicality. So they showed me a clip of that event, and the aftermath of it, like a movie, if we were watching a clip of a movie, and asked me why I had chose that. And I told them that, or my response to them was that way people would see that God carried me through this.
Okay, so why do you think you decided to go to Earth?
Because I was called, for one, as being able to volunteer, but because I knew I was such a strong soul that this would be an easy mission for me. And the purpose of our doing this is that when we come here, or my understanding of the purpose of why I came here, was because the lessons that I complete here complete this lesson for everybody across the board. And it doesn't mean just here in the earthly plane, it's through all dimensions.
Yeah. So you thought that this is going to be an easy ride for you because you're an advanced soul. How was it so far?
It has been extremely difficult. And
Yeah.
there have been many times where I have wanted to leave. And there was one time where I attempted to leave and I was not permitted to.
Now you said that you choose what you're going to do in this life in advance. Did you choose this podcast to be on this podcast?
No. So there are things that we choose, such as we choose our parents. And a lot of the times we choose very challenging upbringings, challenging parents because of the soul growth for that parent and not for us. So a lot of the experiences that we do experience in this lifetime, as triggering as they may be for us to go through, aren't necessarily part of our soul growth, but the people involved. Again, we do choose with our team things that we are going to experience, but there is the universal law. And that universal law is that there is another side to this that is opposing our advancement and our light work that we're doing here. And so they can interject different trajectories that will throw us off or attempt to throw us off. And it is allowed, but there is a balance within it. So we have our side and that side constantly battling each other to keep those of us that are meant to do the highest work and the highest good here and to return home on the correct path and not to be lost.
Okay, so you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, that there were events already recorded in the Akashic records that will happen.
Yes.
So, for example, these car accidents and whatever has been into your life, you already seen that in the Akashic records as it already happened in your
Yes.
life in a different reality. You just had to come back and leave that to
Correct.
learn your lessons or to influence somebody else.
Correct. And yes, our reactions to things cause a trickle effect to those around us. So in that part of our lesson is how are we responding and reacting?
Okay.
What's the outcome of that reaction?
So you came here on Earth to get your own lessons, to advance, but also to influence other people, other beings.
And to clear the lessons for everyone else too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who did you influence, as far as you know, and how did you influence them?
That's a great question. I think I may silently influence people who watch my journey and see great struggles that I have overcome from coming from a very difficult childhood, abuse, and creating my life that I have now. I'm very self-made and I've achieved what I have on my own. I've gone through some great struggles, accidents, physical disability. I've healed myself. I have elevated spiritually through those challenges, shedding a lot of old woundings. And I think that has helped encourage other people to see that if they try, that they can do the same.
So you think that people on this earth that have challenging lives, they are more advanced human beings because they chose that? What?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It takes a very strong soul to be able to get through, especially physical disabilities or physical illnesses, 100%.
Yeah. How about the people who have easy lives on this planet? What do you think about it? They chose that just like a vacation?
You know, I tried choosing that when I came in. I was checking all the boxes to be watching the sunset on a yacht with my person, drinking wine, just perfect temperatures. And seriously, that was what I had mapped out. I wanted to have the best life, living the highest life as we know it here. And they laughed at me. They're like, you have that here. The whole point of going down there is to have the challenges. But I'm a very stubborn, I came in very stubborn. I'm stubborn. And I ended up, okay, if I can't have that, then I'm just going to knock them all out. And they told me, okay, now you've gone overboard. Now you've chosen too difficult of a path. Why don't you like kind of find a middle ground? And I said, nope, this is what I've chosen. So this is what I'm going to do.
Okay, so you chose challenges and difficult life, but when you came here, you wanted to be on a yacht drinking
I
champagne.
did. I
Did
did.
you forgot about what you chose? What happened?
No, I didn't forget.
You
I
just
didn't
wanted
forget.
you just wanted the easy ride. It was too hard.
You know, to be honest, Sergey, I mapped out my journey, and when I went into the Akashic Hall of Records, there was a line of people, beings that were following me to also come and volunteer at the same time, but to also be a support in my life. And one of those was a spouse. And so I thought I was going to have him here by my side, and that having that comfort or that companionship would make the challenges easier. And when I walked out of the hall and went to go to the next room where we go to come in for our incarnation, he was standing out the door and he said, you know what? I chose a different path. We're not going to be together. I'll be a complete asshole to you when I see you. And so that put me into a panic. I suddenly didn't want to take on all of these challenges, but it was too late. It was already written. So I had to go to the next room where we lay on a table. It's like a chair table, like a dentist chair, if you will. And in the room, it's a bunch of monitors, and they plug us in through the back of our head. And so while we're here having this human experience, our true being self is also alive and well, but we are sleeping monitored at home, and they watch over us the whole time. Again, we're hooked up to computers, if we want to call it that, and monitoring our experience here. And I came in with panic because I suddenly it just changed things for me. And again, those aren't normally feelings that you would have at home, because it's such a loving, accepting, everyone knows you. And I mean, knows you, your best friend, and it's everyone that's there. We're all connected, and it's so accepting and so loving and so beautiful. And, you know, we don't have the cold weather. We don't have the physical feeling of pain and discomfort like we do here. So when I incarnated into the womb, I remember being in my mother's womb, and I was scared to be born. I was scared to exit the womb, the experiences that I had while I was in the womb. So I left home with panic, and has been a steady baseline through my entire life, has been a baseline of anxiety and panic.
Yeah, you see, you mentioned that you incarnated in panic, and this is, I think, it's happening when people pass away from this earth. If they pass in panic, they're gonna go to a panic, realm. Maybe eventually they'll graduate to the love and light, but first it's gonna be panic and fear. This is my 5 cents. I don't know if it's true or not. But then also you mentioned panic on the other side, while everybody says this is only love and light over there. Where does the panic come from over there?
That's a great question. I just know that it existed within me. Again, frustration, negative emotions are not a normal experience, but I did experience them before I came in. And I can't speak for everyone, but I know that we're all from different places. So my home may be different than the next person's home.
Yeah. Now, you said that you experienced this friendship and love and everybody you know and everybody was so close to you on the other side. Did you ever experience these kind of feelings with people here on the planet?
I've had close glimpses of it. I can say I did meet one individual last year who I instantly recognized as a soul being from the same home that I am from. And so with it, and it was a very short interaction, but within that interaction, it was like I was looking into myself. There was this easy comfort with that individual. And it was just like, oh my God, like I'm finally, for the first time on this planet, meeting another one of me, another being like me. And it was so refreshing. And it's just like, I knew it always existed. I knew that there was someone else there. So, 47 years here on the planet, and I finally come across one. And then it made me sad when we parted ways. And I mean, there was a telepathic connection there. It was so wild and fun and invigorating that when we had to part ways, it made me sad. It made my soul sad because it's like, I want to pick your brain. I want to know more. Like, what has this experience been like for you? And unfortunately, I didn't get to do that. But I was grateful for the placement along my journey to at least know. So I know that others from home are here too.
Now, what do you mean when you say soul home? That's a planet where you came from, or there is a realm where you came from. That's your soul home.
Well, I guess we would call it a realm or a planet. It is a place like here, but again, the it's not third dimension, so there's not the denseness to it.
All right, Heather, do you believe in soul mates?
I believe that there are soulmates, soul counterparts, soul family, and that they would be from the same realm. I don't think it's completely out of the question where different beings from different realms can have a soul connection, but I do feel strongly that it would be from the same realm, the same home. And as far as that soulmate completing you and making your life complete, that's there's a little gray area to that. I think that you yourself have to be the source of your happiness and your completeness, and that you bring to each other. I do think that having a soulmate, a true soulmate companionship, can absolutely enhance your experience, can add to your happiness, but I don't think it should be or is the source of.
Okay, so you are your own soulmate.
Yeah.
Now, you brought that analogy about being in that room connected to the computers behind your back. And I remember the movie Avatar. You've seen the Avatar movie, the
Yes, I
first
have.
one. So you are connected to what? When you are connected to these computer wires, whatever you mentioned, what do you are connected to? Are the Akashic records, or what you are connected to?
No, they're just so I didn't see what it was. I just felt it. It's something in the back of the head, and it's. Have you seen The Matrix? I think it might be the first Matrix movie where Keanu Reeves takes the pill and he is encapsulated in this fluid and he pulls the thing out of the back of the head. Well, it's similar to that. So they plug this thing in, and that's what we travel into this. You travel into the womb. I just remember it being a really short journey through like a tube. But before leaving the room, I just remember seeing monitors along the wall, and there was a team of people around me. So I think it's not your vitals that they're monitoring, but they're able to see into your experience. So they're kind of like on standby through the real challenging times so that they can intercept us if needed to help us. And again, yes, if we had like say a heart attack or something and it wasn't time for us to come, that's when they can step in and kind of shift us back to being on our path and staying here.
Okay, so I assume that when you incarnated, you remembered a little bit more when you were in your mother's womb,
Yes.
but then when you were born, you forgot everything, and then you
No,
remembered later what happened.
no, I've always remembered. In my mother's womb, I remember how comfortable and warm it was, but it was also a scary place for me because my mother and father, again, I chose a very challenging life and challenged parents. There was domestic violence, and my father was beating my mother and hit me. And I remember in the womb feeling the blow to my face and my nose burning like I had got chlorinated water up my nose was the sensation that I had. And I remember being fearful and hearing them fight and not wanting to leave the womb. I was scared to be in that environment. I remember the birthing process. I remember my face just feeling so smushed and so tightened as I was traveling through the birth canal. I remember being born and the doctors poking and prodding me and how uncomfortable it was. I remember the disorientation of being in a physical body and this hand-eye coordination that I didn't have at all. I try to grab things and my hand would want to go through it, and the frustration of all of that. And as I progressed through life, I was not really a happy child because I didn't want to be here.
Yeah, you didn't want to be here, but you planned to come,
I did.
and you always remembered. Now, how
And
much of
that
the yeah,
remembering made, sorry to interrupt, that remembering made it hard for me
yeah,
because I knew this isn't my actual place.
yeah,
This isn't my real home.
yeah? I mentioned that in my previous podcast with Franco. I have a short film I made. Ah, gosh, it's been 30 years ago, and it's called Home. And it's about this little kid that he was beaten in his family, child abuse. And he was going outside and just looking at the star and the sky and crying and wanted to go back home. This was
Mm-hmm.
not his home where he lived. That
Yeah.
was his home. So the kid was 10 years old. So that's what I want to put my 5 cents there. But now, how much of your pre-planned events actually materialized here on this planet?
So far, all of them. And then ones that I didn't plan have definitely happened too.
So do you know what else is to expect? Do you remember what else in your life is gotta happen? Or it's a mystery to you?
There are some things that I know that are still meant to unfold. Thankfully, they're on the positive note. They're the positive upswing. I might actually get to see some of those things that I originally wanted to experience. I do believe that I have passed through all of the difficult times. So I've overcome those lessons for everyone. But there are things that will be a mystery.
Okay, so the yacht and the champagne, it's yet to materialize. It's right
Yes, it
there.
is.
Okay,
It is.
you can
I
see it.
can
Okay,
taste it.
that's good. That's good.
That
I'm
is
glad.
good. Yeah.
All right, that's something really positive here. A
Yes,
ray of light.
it is. It is.
So basically, you paid all your dues or the karma. They call it karma, but we call it pre-planning before birth.
Mm-hmm.
You already accomplished that, and now you are smooth
Yes.
sailing.
I sure hope so. Yes.
Yeah. And did you learn the lessons that you planned to learn before you incarnated?
Yes, I did. And some of them, it was a stubborn process. I had to go through them a few times to get there, but I think I've finally.
The car accident, you mean?
Not just that. I mean, relationships, all sorts of things. Putting, understanding that we have a choice in this life. So many people are working a job that they can't stand and they're letting the fear run them, and you have a choice. And that has been a big one for me over the last several years where I won't do that to myself. And as scary as it is to walk away from that steady paycheck, for example, I've always landed on my feet and in a better direction and in a better way. And it's also empowering when you start making choices that support your soul and not just your monetarily or materialistic realm.
Okay. What abilities you think you brought with you on this planet? What acquired during your journey here?
I'm not sure. What abilities did I? Well, I know as far as my spiritual side abilities, I did come in with healing abilities and working with others in that way, animals and humans. So that is something that I still work with and use and help others. Some things that I came in with, like telekinetic abilities, were active as a young child, but it scared my family members, and so they asked me to stop. I had spirits of passed on family members or strangers that would come to me and want me to pass messages on, and again, it would scare. So I was asked to stop. My mother was worried with, for example, the telekinetic abilities that the government was going to take me away from her and experiment on me. So she wanted me to stop doing it. So those are things. So now it's just, I offer energy healing to people and have very profound sessions with clients. I have clients that are worldwide. I work with animals as an animal communicator. I recently added my ordained minister services as marrying people. So my goal is just to continue to spread light, even in daily interactions, just bringing my best self.
Now, let me ask you about the animals, because a lot of people have animals. They're very attached to them. And I know we had a conversation before recording that you have a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share your bond to this cat? And do you think this has been planned before you incarnated? And what's your bond? What's your bond with this animal?
Yes, Isis, who is right here at my feet because she likes how she's lifted her head and meowed, likes to be right by her mama's side. Yes, she came in from the other side too. She is one of my best friends, and we have great communication with one another. We are both bonded to the other. When I'm home, she has to have a paw touching me. We talk to each other all the time. I can talk to her about things and she'll, telepathically talk back or she'll meow in response to. She's also just my number one support. She knows if I've just had a day and I don't even have to say anything and she'll come lay with me and just like lay out just like how I'm feeling. It's awesome.
Do you think that the animals can be people on the other side?
They are, yes. So we choose how we want to incarnate. And not everyone is here to learn all the big, heavy lessons. Some, like Isis, are here just to be a support to those of us that came to sign up for those big things. So you can be a cat or a dog or a ladybug or a leaf on a tree. Everything on this planet is a living being. Everything has a consciousness to it. And there are people that don't believe that animals have souls, and they very much do.
Okay, so you think a person on the other side, very advanced being, can incarnate here as a leaf on the tree?
Yep.
What's the contribution of that advanced soul as a leaf on a tree? He can be a guru, he can be a Buddha, he can bring much more, much more enlightenment to this planet instead of being a leaf on a tree. Or he's just relaxing. This is his vacation.
Exactly. Trees do a lot of things. They help us breathe. So, what may seem insignificant to us as a leaf on a tree is, in fact, a very important role.
All right, so this leaf on the tree has the same soul as an enlightenment, as a Buddha,
Mm-hmm.
and the same knowledge.
Mm-hmm. It sounds absurd, but yes.
So what we can learn from a leaf on a tree?
Stillness, flow.
But the leaf is not always still.
I know, but it's where the flow comes in when the wind is blowing it hard. But also, leaves fall off of a tree, and that just means that their time is done.
Did you personally learn stillness from a leaf on a tree?
Yes. And blades of grass.
All right. I understand that you had an OBE or NDE.
I did.
Would you like to talk about it a little bit?
Okay. I was in a coma for 3 days, and during that process, I was intercepted. I wasn't quite at my home. There was a ship that I awoke on that was halfway between home and here. And I was on a bed, a medical bed, and there was a gentleman. I just remember the one man next to me, and he was very familiar to me. And I don't want to say that I completely recognized him, but he was familiar, and he had worked on my body and had corrected the damage that was done to put me into the coma, and told me that there was no cheating my way out of this experience, that I had to come back and complete the experience. And I didn't want to leave. I was upset. So when I came back, as soon as he was done and said, "You got to go back," and I said, "No, I don't want to." He's like, "You're going back." And I woke up out of the coma in the hospital bed in the trauma unit. I was on life support, and started crying. And I had aspirated before they put me on life support. So that aspiration was still in my lungs, and I started choking when I woke up. And that was a very terrifying experience, to not be able to breathe. And a nurse came in and suctioned out my lungs, and I passed back out. And I was back here on Earth, not wanting to be here still.
So what else do you remember from that near-death experience?
I just remember while I was in the body, in my coma, not being able to respond to anyone. I could hear conversations, and inside my body, I was trying to move a finger, just anything with all my might, and my physical body would not respond. It wouldn't move. I was trying to scream that I'm in here, and the body was irresponsive.
All right, Heather, let me ask you a question, because you went through all these experiences. Are you afraid of that?
I'm looking forward to returning home, but not in a way of I don't want to be here. I
Yeah,
just have understood that it's not something to fear.
yeah. And you still want to do that yacht and champagne
Of
thing, right?
course.
Yeah.
Oh, I very much want to. I've moved through the not wanting to be here part. I've healed a lot from the experiences that I've had. No, now I'm ready to celebrate and move into that chapter of my life where, I have that soulmate by my side, and the sunsets we get to share together kind of experience. So I'm welcoming it.
Do you feel that you have a mission on Earth?
I do. The mission is the helping to wake people up, to help them remember that we are more than this experience, that we came from somewhere other than here, and we're still there. We're just having a simultaneous experience in this realm, and that this isn't our actual true home or our true life experience. It's just a temporary one that we're moving through, and to help people not fear the transition, and to trust that you do go on, you do continue.
All right, now you have these pre-birth memories. Have you seen on the other side, before your birth, any notable figures like Jesus, Moses, Abraham, MLK, Mandela, and so on?
There, yes, are two beings that were in the Akashic Hall of Records when I was selecting my life path, that we would call Jesus and Mary, but they didn't look like the human Jesus and Mary, and they were explaining things to me. For example, I don't have children. I've never had children. I have never been pregnant, and it's because that's not part of my path. And I didn't, when I was at home, what are children? It's not something we know of. And so again, they'll show you a clip of what a child is. This is what it is, but I don't need it as part of my path. So it's not something. They said you can if you want to have the experience, but it's not something you have to do. So they were there kind of just overseeing everything, if you would. But those are the only two that I can recall.
So you said that Jesus and Mary didn't look like we see them on the pictures. What did they look like?
Well, they had brown. They both had brown hair, and it was straight, but they weren't dressed in the garb that we see. They were. I want to say they were like in these black, kind of like long cloak. Well, not cloak, because there was no hood to them. Just kind of like a black satiny gown with a V-neck to it is what I remember seeing them wearing.
Why do you think Christians believe that the only way to salvation is Christ?
That I don't have an answer for.
Okay, that's all right. You don't have to. You don't have to have any answer. Every answer here. Now, some people would like to see their loved ones, their family members, grandmother, mother, sister, and so on the other side. Who do you like to see on the other side? Do you want to see your family, or would you like to see?
When I go to the other side, I look forward to seeing everyone because again, everyone we know they're all our family. They're all our friends. I do look forward to seeing family members that have passed on. And they do visit from time to time in my dreams. I do look forward to seeing my fur babies that have passed on in their true form if they're not busy down here reincarnating or on another realm doing their thing.
Do you believe that life goes on forever?
I do. I do. And I also believe that our experience here in this realm is much shorter than we experience it. For us, it's slow moving and it feels like it takes forever. But there's this part of me that believes that no sooner than I incarnated did I come right back. But I'm in this time frame where it feels like it's this long, drawn out process to get back.
Yeah, because we have a notion of time here. On the other side, there is no notion of time, so you can't feel that.
Yeah.
Now, everyone I interviewed say that we all have spiritual guides.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we recognize our spiritual guides here on this planet? How can we hear them?
Well, I think the recognizing is going to be different for everybody. The hearing them would be different depending on how they come in. There are times where you can feel them touch you. You can feel a comfort around you. You can feel a hand lay on you out of nowhere, but it comes with a comforting feeling. I don't necessarily hear a voice with my guides. For me, it's just a warm, comforting feeling, an inner knowing, if you will. But again, I've had the experience of them showing up in a physical form and having a verbal conversation with me. But there's a comfort that always surrounds when your guides are there with you. It's just this, you just know.
So basically, it's intuition. Let's say you
Mm-hmm.
drive or you walk by yourself and you suddenly feel that you are talking to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pay attention, then you can say, okay, this is my spiritual guide actually talking to me.
Mm-hmm. But you do have to tune into it. So yes, very intuitively based. And some people are still learning how to tap into that intuition.
Okay. How about those people that hear voices? Are they crazy, or they hear some kind of evil entities?
No, I believe that people that hear voices are highly sensitive beings and they're picking up everything around them. Even as a young child, I would hear the energy, the electricity moving through the house, and it was overwhelming.
But there have been many crimes described, and the criminal said that he heard the voice to do the crime.
Mm-hmm. Because they're such a pure, open channel that, yeah, and they're influenced. And again, these are soul contracts that they also agreed to or signed up for, or it's part of the interference of the other side that is part of that path.
All right. When you had your NDE, you said that you wanted to stay, but you were told to come back.
Yes.
If there is a free will, why the souls are sent back?
Because my lessons were not completed and I agreed to stay here to complete the lessons. So, because in my case, again, being a higher being, the impact of my staying is greater than my leaving early. So it's important for me to stay and to continue and follow through.
Okay, so then this is not a complete free will.
Right. Right. My free will is in the choice to stay or have left when I was offered. My free will and all of our free will is how we respond and we react to what we're being presented with. But in the end, yes, we have a contract that we are intended to fulfill while we are here. Now, there are people that do exit early, but that is part of their contract, and that confuses. It can be confusing.
Yeah, they also say that there are several exit points in
Mm-hmm. Yes.
everybody's program. There's many exit points, and if you are really fed up and everything, you can't handle it. You just use one of those
Yes.
exit points, and you are out.
And in my case, I was not permitted to use that exit point when I attempted to out.
So if people are so connected on the other side, everybody is the same. We are all one. That's
Mm-hmm.
what they say. Why are they so alienated here then?
Because we don't feel the connection here. We feel the disconnect here. And we're all seeking, or most of us are seeking that connection. I don't believe that everybody here on the planet is soul embodied and seeking the same thing or feeling the same thing. I do believe that there are dark beings here, that there are empty beings here. So when you're home and you're in that consciousness of all connectedness, and then you're in the 3D where you don't have that, it's much more of a challenge.
What do you mean by empty beings?
Beings that don't have a soul.
So what kind of beings are those? Where they come from?
I don't know that they come from anywhere. I mean, this is just my feel on what they are. I think they're just kind of a blank walking around to fill the space.
All right, so we talk about a leaf on a tree, and you said the
Mm-hmm.
leaf on a tree has a soul,
Mm-hmm.
but a human being here on earth, an empty being, has no soul.
I know it's conflicting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's by design.
So can you bring an example of soulless being on this earth?
I don't have one that comes to mind, but usually there is no connection there with them. They're not capable of connection with other people. Yeah, it's a difficult thing for me to
Yeah. Yeah,
put
you don't
into
have
words,
yeah, you
really.
don't have the answer to every question, but this is why we're having this conversation, no?
Yes.
You don't have to have the answer to everything. This is normal.
There have been beings as I walk down the street, and you may experience too, where you meet eyes with them, and that eye contact and that glisten that happens in the eye, and that it's just this knowingness where your souls are recognizing each other, compared to a being that you pass by and there's nothing there. There's no light on. There's just nothing.
Okay. Is there such thing as void? Some souls, when they pass to the other side, they said that they experience void. There is nothing. But they also experience this velvet surrounding that is very comforting. There is no happiness yet, but there is no worries anymore. and they feel that for a while.
I think it may be about their comfort levels of the process. They may need that slower return.
Yeah.
And again, we come from different realms. So, entry point from one to the other may vary.
Yeah. Can you bring us some examples of different realms? I had a guest. She was an Arcturian being, Vivian Chauvet. Be honest, I never heard of Arcturians. It's my first time I heard that. So, can you bring us some examples of realms that in your knowledge?
I wish I could. I've heard of the Arcturians, and I did see that podcast. It was a great interview, and it was wonderful to hear her story to share. I don't even know the name of my home or my realm. Nothing comes as a name for me, and it would be so interesting to learn what it is. So no, I don't. I mean, I don't know all the different realms that exist, or how many there are, or how vast they are, and I don't know the names of them all.
Okay, I appreciate it very much. Saying no, you don't know, that's great. And me too. I don't know anything, but I'm trying to find out.
Well, I think we're all learning. I mean, I
Yeah.
know I came in with pre-birth memories, but there's still a level of mystery to it. Like, again, I'd love to know, what realm did I come from? If anyone knows, tell me. Yeah.
So you said that when you were on the other side, there was a line of people in Akashic records.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe that and explain what do you mean by that?
That there were a line of beings waiting their turn to enter into the hall of Akashic records to incarnate, but the line was vast. And they were all incarnating to support me through my incarnation. So it's when we come in, we don't necessarily come in alone. We have our aloneness in our physical body, but we have a whole team of other beings that come in to support us through our life. So some, like Isis, incarnated as a cat. Some will incarnate as a friend or a teacher, or someone you meet 30 years down the road as a neighbor or at the it differs. It varies.
So I think I might be in that line somewhere too, if you're talking to me right now.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
All right. But I didn't incarnate only to affect you. I had many missions to do, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
not only talking about me, we're talking about all these people in lines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So why are people the souls on the other side, why are they so eager to incarnate here?
Because we're here to do good for everyone, and it's about uplifting. I wish I knew what the true purpose of the learning of the lessons for everyone is. That's something I even don't have clarity of. Coming from home, it's just this inner knowingness that it's something that we do is all I can remember. It was just like an ingrained thing. This is just what we do. That's all I remember.
Yeah, sometimes looking around, we can believe that people incarnate here to do good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Heather, let me ask you about your work, what you do. I know you don't have a book yet. We've been talking about that before. But if you can mention your website and what you do, and how can people find out about you more?
Sure. So I have one website, but two ways to get to it. It's www.heatherrugg.com or intuitivewithimpact.com. I am a board certified alternative medicine practitioner. I specialize in Reiki, but also shamanic energy healing. I studied shamanism in Dublin, Ireland. I also offer animal communication. I am an ordained minister and I marry couples. Those are some of the offerings that I offer to people via Zoom sessions. I have worldwide clients, and I also will see people in person if they are in the area. I do love one-on-one in-person sessions as well.
And you are in San Francisco, right?
I am in San Francisco.
Okay, one question I ask everybody. Heather, what's your definition of freedom?
Freedom to me is just that breath, being able to breathe and having time to wake up without an alarm and do whatever I want in the day, to go wherever I want, and to breathe and to feel relaxed and at peace. That to me is freedom.